My guest today is actor Patch Darragh, who graduated with honors from Juilliard and began his career playing in award-winning plays both on and off Broadway. He has an extensive list of TV credits, most recently on the award-winning HBO series Succession, on which he played Ray Kennedy from season 2 to season 4. Now, Patch has also had roles on Law and Order, SVU, Mr. Mercedes, LONGMIRE, even BOARDWALK EMPIRE and Kaleidoscope, to name a few. He's perhaps best known as the lovable dad on the Netflix cult hit Everything Sucks, on which he was a series regular. Now, on the film side, Patch can be seen in the Blumhouse features The First Purge and CAM, and he also starred in the independent films Sully, BRITTANY Runs A Marathon, and the new film Cabrini. And as a writer, Patch has developed 3 television pilots, including 2 with fellow Juilliard grad Erin Gann, and their feature BIRTHRITE wrapped principal photography in June of 2023. Let's welcome actor, writer Patch Darragh to the show.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, tell me right off bat, since you went to Juilliard, what led you into acting?
Oh, geez. I really, I'm not someone who really thought about it all that much, to be honest with you. There it wasn't like, oh, well, I had any other particular interests. And I think I was just young and naive enough to, or maybe bold enough to give it a go. And a friend of mine that I'd gone to acting camps with as a kid in Michigan, she said, she was a year younger than me, and she said, you've got to apply to this school, Juilliard. I'd never even heard of it. She said, well, you got to apply. You'll never get in, but you should give it a shot. And so I did. and
you got in?
Well, and I got in, yeah. And that was definitely a big, it was very encouraging because I was just 17. I'd never been to New York. And it was a really wonderful time, I'm still close with some of the folks I went to school with, including Erin Gann. It was a really wonderful, I was ready for that kind of move. I was ready to go and have conservatory training and be that focused. By the end of high school, I really just wasn't interested in anything else.
Well, being theater trained, how has that helped you become a better actor on screen?
People have differing beliefs about is it really, at the end of the day, is good acting just good acting? I think there definitely are some. There's definitely a lot of crossover, but I think it helped a lot on Cabrini because we did an awful lot of what they call oneers, where there's no cut. There's a couple scenes where they did coverage and my turn, your turn, but very often most of the takes were one shot. So you want to be able to sustain the scene for longer. But also I'm thinking of the hospital sequence when there's the explosion. There was a whole lot of choreography there, not just with the actors, but with the background. I mean, we would have like 100 background there, sometimes maybe even more. And then being choreographed with the crew. And Gorka, who did such a beautiful job filming it, he also served as his own camera operator. And there was just a whole lot of finessing. And I think sometimes having the theater background and just some of the poise that you get from performing live, I think it can be very helpful. And then there's a whole lot of stuff that is unique to filming that you don't think about when you're on stage. And hopefully some of those credits that you listed off, I'm thinking back, you learn a little bit more each time. You learn from people you work with. And but I would say it was definitely instrumental in working on Cabrini particularly.
Well, you bring up the hospital scene, and then there was the underground scenes, which When I watch dark scenes, it's always the shadows, it's the lighting. How
Mhm.
difficult was that to film?
Um, well, they built the whole set, so there was, uh, we weren't just on location there. I'm thinking of the hospital, the Italian hospital, and the Five Points area, which gives you a lot more control. We're not dealing with ambient sound or strangers on the street and that kind of thing. Um, and I would say that Alejandro had a very strong plan in place. He was very prepared, and he knew exactly what he wanted. He also did something interesting that I've never done before, which was he always wanted to watch playback in between takes. Occasionally that happens, but not to the extent that he wanted, because he'd say, "Okay, Patch, Christiana, come watch this," and he would say, "Okay, see, now I like that. I don't like that. I want, you sort of looked away there. Don't do that." It was very, very particular, and I like that. I don't mind that at all.
So
So
so he was so he is a very hands-on director.
very much, yeah. And he also, not to say that he wasn't also very much available to what was happening in the moment, um, but even little things like, I remember there was a day we were filming, and this was Buffalo in the summer, and we're in the period costumes, and they kept having to come over with towels in between takes because Christiana and I were just melting. But he said, guys, what can we do if we wait? We just need to wait a little longer and do a few more takes because the sun, look how beautiful it's going down right behind you guys. So he was very much into using the elements. And Buffalo is just a wealth of places to film, and they really took advantage of a lot of them.
Really, I would have never thought that about Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, it's got that history to it. And then we also, so there's a lot of like the old high school we used as my hospital, the Uptown Hospital. There's just a lot of old architecture there. Several of the presidents lived there, so there was some clubs that we were able to film in. I mean, like country clubs. um,
Well,
but
how long did it take to film Cabrini? Because I know this was it basically took 2.5 years from start to finish.
yeah, I would say yeah, because they also went and shot some stuff in Italy, and I think they did a second unit did some New York stuff. So it was long, and my role shot. I think I got the role around my birthday, which is June 21st, and we wrapped. I wrapped 2 days after my wedding. This is I normally am not great with dates, but that was a very particular time. So it was, I think I started end of June, and they ended up calling me up. They said we're adding a scene. It's 2 days after my wedding. I'm supposed to be on my honeymoon. They said we're so sorry, but can you come up and do this one more scene? And then they cut it. But it was great. I got to do a little scene with David Morse and John Lithgow, who are two of my heroes, and I turned to Jeremy Bobb, who played the journalist, and we were kind of nudging each other and saying, "Hey, if we turn out like these guys, we'll be doing pretty good."
Well, what was it like working with some of the very experienced actors like John Lithgow?
Yeah, I've been really, really lucky throughout my career so far to work with some really great people, and the kind of people that they say don't meet your heroes, but sometimes you should. He was both those gentlemen are just everything you would hope that they would be. Very, just very open, very much, uh, not like leave me alone or come sit with everybody. And I found most of the really great and even iconic actors I've gotten to work with over the years, you know, I really do think it's true that the best actors are also the best people because they're interested in other people, and they also know that the scenes are only going to be as good as we are together. And if I'm doing my own thing, you're doing your own thing, we're not really in the same room together, it's just never going to be as good. And I felt like, yeah, both those guys were just very inclusive and and supportive.
Well, how did the role of Dr. Murphy in Cabrini come your way?
Um, the way it is now, I actually moved out of New York City because of the advent of self tapes. You don't have to go in and do it live as much anymore. So it's coming back a little bit. Um, and then sometimes you'll do like callbacks in a Zoom like we're doing here. But so I just made a tape, and a few days later they called and said, "Yeah, you got it." Um, I this is may sound arrogant, but I always assume I'm going to get everything, and it doesn't usually work out that way. But this one, I just felt some kind of connection to it. Maybe it's just my Irishness. Um, and there's maybe doctors in my history. It's not a profession I could actually do, but I think I connected to something in it. I also love doing period stuff. I think that there's just like an extra something to it, poignancy or something.
Well, it's when I watched the film from a cast point of view, it was perfectly cast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every role, every major role, even down to Mother Cabrini's sisters
Yeah.
that worked with her, they were perfectly cast. Uh,
Phenomenal.
you had a
Yeah.
major role in this film, and of course you bring up the Irishness, which I really noticed. Of course, your name,
Mhm.
really tells us that you are Irish. And
Yeah.
did you find that the story of Cabrini, here it is based in 1889, and as I watched it, it really reminded me of what's going on in our country now. In a way, it's history repeating itself.
Hmm. Yeah. I think there's one of the great achievements of the way they told this story, and a lot of credit would go to Rod Barr, our screenwriter as well, is um, when you're trying to put in social commentary, it really has to be like the pill in the dog food. We still got to have the dog food. It's still got to be a great movie. It can't just be dictating to people or preaching at them. And I think it shows rather than scolds about issues of faith, of commitment to a higher calling, commitment to being in a society together, and obviously immigration being a big part of what the country is grappling with. We're in a very different time now than we were then, and there's many considerations. But to lead with that kind of humanity at the forefront, and to show that in this time, this woman with very little resource, shouldn't have even lived more than a couple years, went on to build this incredible empire. I mean, how did she do that in China? You know, there's this scene where they're coming back. Her and her sisters are coming back from Italy, and it's like, oh, they're just getting off the boat. But you think that was a big decision. How did they even get on the boat, and how long were they on it? All of these things. We live in a much a smaller globe now, where it seems like these things are more possible. But she, true pioneer and true saint.
Well, did you know anything about the story of Cabrini prior to the role?
Not really. Funnily enough, my writing partner Erin lives on Cabrini Boulevard, and so I've been to Cabrini Boulevard thousands of times. And when I got the role, I said, "What? Isn't there something? It says there's something on your street, and that's where her body is in the encased glass, and it's right down the street from where I've walked so many times." We went there together, and really, that was very informative because, like so many people, I really didn't know. I really didn't know her story, and certainly didn't know how uh, how big her impact was.
I know, and what amazed me was because I'm watching the film and I'm seeing history repeat itself.
Hmm.
And I was amazed, especially with the mayor, John Lithgow's part.
Hmm.
He's, and you can tell by the way that he talks, it's like, let's keep New York white.
Yeah.
But in that day and age, nobody was doing anything to stop these ocean liners and these ships coming in to New York Harbor. And they're all passing the Statue of Liberty. So they're
Yeah.
coming in, but nobody's doing anything to say, whoa, 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 you're not welcome here. They're coming on, but they're trying to figure out how to control a situation that they're not controlling at all.
That's right. Yeah. And the screening, I guess I saw it maybe 6 months ago. We were at one of the Catholic institutions in town. In fact, it was kind of funny. There was a whole row of nuns sitting behind me, and they were so chatty through the whole movie. At one point, I had to turn and shush the nuns. I said to my wife, "Am I really going to have to do this?" Shh. But we saw it again when it came out opening weekend, and a bunch of us went to the mall and saw it together, and it got a big laugh. The line about a kind of a rueful laugh when she says, one day, not too long from now, there's going to be an Italian sitting in the mayor's office, and I don't know, it just felt like a very New York moment. Everybody just kind of chuckling at that because it's not going to stop.
Yeah, very much so. And I even laughed at that part as
Yeah.
well. And some of the lines in the movie, mostly coming from Cabrini, are
Hmm.
so profound, so uplifting and
Yeah.
inspiring and motivation. It causes people to kind of stop in their tracks when she speaks on screen. And
Yeah.
then you're thinking about her words and you're like, oh, because for me, Cabrini, she is the epitome of strength, boldness, and tenacity. And
Yeah.
the thing that I loved about her was anytime someone said no, she went over their head and basically like, no, I want to hear it from the person that you think told you that.
Yep.
Even up to the Pope, which I
Right.
thought was a pretty bold move, especially for a woman back in the day.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And yet with always with a measure of grace, and that's one of the many things that Christiana did that was astounding to watch and be around. Um, she found a way to give those passages a lot of gravity, but also simplicity. It wasn't over thought. It was just, this is who she is and this is how she speaks, and she's going to drop those bombs, but she's going to do it in a very um, methodical way and in a very simple way that it's very hard to say no to. That it's very unnerving because someone is just so assured, and she really had that. I mean, I think it's just a tremendous performance carrying that movie, and it's a solid 2.5 hours, all her, and she just hits every note.
She does, and I love the fact that uh, Hollywood can't gripe because of the fact that you had a very strong female lead that carried this whole film. She had
Hmm.
the best lines. Now, she had the best lines, but I have to say, even the Pope towards the end had an incredible line himself, and he says, "I can't tell where your faith ends and your ambition begins." And I
Hmm.
had to sit there and like, whoa, that
Yeah.
is one big step. How many of us can reach that level for someone to make that comment?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I got chills. That is a that is another one of the really great lines, and it's also a movie about those kinds of big ideas. I mean, what is it? What do we owe to one another? What is it? What? Yeah, just really, really big ideas that you leave, and there's lots to consider and talk about. I've sat down with a number of different people, and it seems it really has touched a lot of people. But it's really it's a very thoughtful film, and it creates a lot of discussion, not just the political side, but also just on the deeper, what are we all doing here?
Well, the deepest part of the film, believe it or not, for me when I watched it, was the newspaper editor. And so he goes, it was so funny. She grabs his hat and coat and basically says, "You're coming with me,"
Yeah.
and you have no choice. But it's that it's that scene in the movie where the editor starts to narrate,
Hmm.
and you have this it's him giving the voiceover of what he is seeing, and his
Yeah.
lines alone should be a testament to all of us to realize that those that do come here, especially back in the day, they came here to learn English, to be American, to be proud to be an American,
Hmm.
but then they sing in their own language to always be proud to where they came from.
Yeah, that's a really nice uh, moment as well when the I
It was
guess
almost,
he's the one who
yeah.
tells us that, right? And he shows the kids. Yeah.
It was almost
Yeah.
it was almost it was a tear making moment in that film.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I know, and just all those young faces, um, so full of hope and possibility. The true, what we love to feel is true about our country.
Well, so here you are. You've starred in Cabrini, a film that has been brought out by Angel Studios. Working on a film uh, from Angel compared to, let's say, when you were on Sully, for example, how would you explain the differences?
Well, I think I think that Angel came on as a distributor. I'm pretty sure that's right. That they and they have their method of using their own people, their own audience to decide what they want their programming to be. So I think that they found Cabrini and then they put it through that process, and people said yes, let's support this. So I didn't really have contact with anyone at Angel until after setting up this kind of thing. And But it's funny. Sully was they're both movies that had a lot of support. They were well financed, and there wasn't a lot of. I mean, there was a lot of confidence given to the filmmakers, and I think that always is always going to bring about the best work. Um, I mean, it also does help to have the endowment to be able to say, okay, we're going to need some goats and some chickens and 200 extras. It's a lot to coordinate. But yeah, I mean, I haven't done a whole lot of movies. I'd love to do more, but yeah, both of those, and then Clint Eastwood has his own way of doing everything because I think he figured out what he likes and does not like as an actor, and he basically eliminated all the stuff that he doesn't like. So like, there's no last looks. Everyone gets, at least if you have a significant part, you're assigned an assistant. You need something, you ask for the assistant. Otherwise, we're always rolling, and there's no action, there's no cut. Um, so that was interesting. Um,
Really?
yeah, and also not nearly as exacting. Like I remember the focus puller said, "Oh, boss, I think we got to go back and catch that again. I lost the focus on Patch for a second when he stood up." He said, "Well, so what? You found him eventually. If people are watching that, we're in trouble. It's a story." Like he just started going off on this guy. I guess he apparently really doesn't like to do more than one take per setup. He said to Matt Damon, I didn't know this until after I'd worked with him, and asked him for another take, which he reluctantly gave me. But I guess he told Matt Damon, like you're just wasting everyone's time if you want to ask for a second take
Well,
on it.
I've talked to other actors who have worked with Clint, and the
Yeah,
biggest thing is he's not after your acting perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants realism.
Mm-hmm.
And he may do another scene again and said, no, now I want you to give it all you've got. But
Mm-hmm.
that's different than saying, I want this to be perfect. Big difference
Right.
because, he was doing a film with Meryl Streep, which he directed. He was getting a little bit perturbed because she kept practicing like over and over again to the point to where if it's like it's got to be absolutely perfect. And finally, he filmed her practicing, and he went back and he showed it to her, and he said, "Look, I want you to be real and relatable to the audience, not doing an absolute 100% perfect, acting job that she would be known for,
Mm-hmm.
because he was looking for something else." And in a way, that kind of broke her from doing that sort of thing. And I
Interesting.
think in a way it can make someone a better actor.
Yeah. What movie was that?
I'm trying to think of what it was. What is that film called? Georgia something. I'm trying to
Huh.
think of who it was. I can't even think of the title. Georgia
Yeah.
County or something. But anyway, it was one that he directed with her in it, and he's like, "You're taking this way too far."
Wow. Interesting.
So
I
the
heard
one
that.
take thing didn't surprise me at all because I had talked to Renee Marino, who was the lead in Jersey Boys, in which Clint directed, and he was the same way. He did. I think there was a scene with her on the stairs when Frankie came home, and he told her, he goes, so she does the scene, and he's like, okay, do it again, but now I want you to let him have it. Like
Mm.
he's coming home late, he's probably carousing. You're the wife. You let him have it. And so it was
Mm.
take two, and that's the way it was because she froze in the middle of the scene and literally for a moment forgot her lines. And then
Mm.
after the scene was done, she goes, I want to do it again because I'd forgotten my lines. And he goes, oh no. He goes, it was absolutely perfect because you were in the moment. If
Yeah.
someone's mad at their husband, they may have that blank moment. So it came out to be real. So yeah, Clint's the master.
Yeah, he really is. But yeah, the style, as far as I know, was very much put it on a tripod and just let it roll. And I would say it was very much not Cabrini. It was like, okay, the camera's gonna fly in here. You guys, I mean, sometimes it'd be like, okay, I know it seems crazy, but you're gonna run around and we're gonna catch you. And yeah, some of the stuff. He's like, I know you would never do this in real life, but in the camera, it's gonna look really good if we then pick you up at the end over here. All those kinds of tricks that happen, and those guys really were masters at it. And of course, half the time I didn't know what they were saying because they'd be shouting at each other in Italian, or I don't know, if it was Greek, or then Mexican, or Spanish rather.
Well, the cinematography of Cabrini is fantastic. It's a extremely high level film that everybody needs to see. But for
Yeah.
you, what was your time like working on Succession?
Oh gosh, Succession was a total dream. Everybody on that show, a lot of them I knew from the theater world. It's a lot of New York theater people, and that set was just unbelievable energy, so alive. Nothing would go unused, and I don't think there was ever a take that was the same ever. And by design, because the writers were all on set and they would come running out with, you know, here you go, Patch. Here's a page. There's like 20 alt lines there. You just pick whatever one you like best. And by the way, Kieran's getting one and Jeremy's getting one. And so now no one really knows. And Mark Mylod, who produced it and also directed, I think he did the first two and the last two of most seasons, and then he did even more in the final season, and finally won the Emmy this year. Um, he would, if it was Mark, he would definitely be like, okay, free for all. I mean, we would get the script, we would do the scenes, but the more getting into the final season, I guess 4, they started to really fall in love with this thing of we're not stopping. We're doing it all as one. So when we shot Logan's funeral, for example, shooting on film, so there's can't guys, these young guys, they were like tennis guy, the guys who grab the tennis balls at the Open, standing there with the canisters every 10 minutes, running in to change the film. But we're not stopping. We're shooting that from Logan's body being wheeled in to being all wheeled out at the end, 38 minutes. And so what that means is, there's 4 or sometimes 5 cameras going. A lot of times I don't even know where they are. I mean, there might be one buried up in the ceiling. There might be one in the pew next to you. You look, oh, there's a camera there. And so it felt, there was never a sense of, oh, now we're on me, then we're going to be on you. No, we're on everybody all at once. And then also, you remember that show, they'd go in and out of focus and they'd be playing with the depth. So there was no tight marks, whereas Cabrini, you want to be here, not here, here, like really specific where you're going to be angled and all of that, which is also it lends to the beauty of that portraiture feel that movie has. But Succession, it was like, oh, you go anywhere you want. And a lot of times say whatever you want. And you and I, we might start a scene and then whole crew's going to run over and have a scene over here. We're going to keep going in character because there might be a camera, or they might come back and button us at the end. This is making it sound like I had a huge part on the show. I had a much bigger part than ended up being aired. A lot of the scripts in the final season, especially, were like 75, 80 pages, and then they only decided to air 55. So it was very heartbreaking to watch, as much as I enjoyed it as a fan. But I wouldn't trade the experience for anything, because working with all of those actors on these long takes, it was like every take was a 1-act play. I got a lot out of it, and also such a Jesse Armstrong. I mean, obviously a genius, and the team of writers he put together season after season. So many brilliant minds, really smart people, but so humble. Oh my God! I mean, if someone asks a question, no problem in front of the whole crew and everybody say, honestly, I don't know the answer to that. Let me think about it. I mean, yeah, they're in a different class. All those folks. I hope I can hear them again.
All I know is you are a great actor, from anywhere from television to film to, I guess we call it streaming if it's HBO or whatever class they want to put that in. But, Succession was the biggest show in 2023. People were rewatching, what is it, 9 seasons or so of Suits, but Succession was the modern day blockbuster for everybody to sit there and binge watch.
Yeah.
And I know that the fans would beg for more seasons to come back.
Yeah.
So one never knows.
Yeah, one never knows. But I think my sense, especially because they were still making up their minds, apparently, throughout the final season, what ended up being the final season. But the sense I got was that they knew they had lightning in a bottle, and they just wanted to protect it and preserve it and not ever, go. I saw an interview with Jesse where he's talking about just the ruthlessness with which they had to be in the editing room. He said there was a scene they did with Tom when Tom first took over, was it ATN, the news network, and he said that it had taken almost everything from that show was taken from real life. Like, they did a ton of research, and they said there was this guy who came in and it was something like he asked a very seemingly harmless question, and whoever like fell for it or was trying to seem smart, okay, you're fired, you're out. Anyone who's trying to seem smarter or is smart, get out of the way. And he said, I think they filmed it. We kept trying to put it in episodes, and it wasn't necessary. We already knew that about Tom's character. It didn't tell us anything new, even though we loved it, and Matthew did it brilliantly, I'm sure, and it was very funny. Yeah, they were very, very protective to never dip too far. And also Jesse sometimes, because a lot of the stuff I was involved in was funny. You know, it's the side characters and how absurd they could be, and again, a lot of improv with Nick Braun and Matthew and Kieran, and sometimes he'd come out from Video Village and be like, "It's very funny. I just don't know if it's Succession." And I thought, right, it just can never go too far into the funny.
That's focus, and that's having vision of the series you're creating and not straying outside the line.
Yeah, as tempting as it would be, because God knows there was so many just hilarious things. And that became a thing too, where I felt like, well, can I get Matthew to crack? Which I sometimes could, but that there's so much just energy, and I want to say fun might sound trivial, because it wasn't trivial. Everyone was very serious and very focused and very prepared, but there was just a tremendous energy. Everyone happy to be there and excited and bringing it all the time.
Yeah, and that's what makes a great series. And boy, did it, like you said, it ended up being lightning in a bottle. Now, for you, what do you have coming up in 2024?
Well, I got a couple things coming out. We're still in this sort of sales distribution part of this film, Birthright, that we shot right before the strike last summer. I've got a movie with Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry called The Union, and J.K. Simmons, another one of my heroes. That's like a fun action movie, which I've never been part of before. We shot it like 2 years ago in London, mostly in London, and then a little bit here. We did some reshoots last summer, and then I've just started on this new series called Long Bright River. And Long Bright River was a novel by Liz Moore, who's a Philly native, and it's about a young police officer played by the amazing Amanda Seyfried, who I've just started working with, and we're having a great time. At least I am. And she plays this young cop who's looking for her sister, who's fallen into drugs and living on the street. And as these women who are living on the street start to show up dead, it's assumed that it's all overdose, because there's a serious problem in Philly right now. I mean, it's happening in other areas of the country, LA and Portland, where people are on a drug called Trank, which is fentanyl mixed with ketamine. And I went down there to do a research trip, and it is shocking. You want to talk about what's going on in our country right now. I mean, it's. I wonder what Mother Cabrini would have to say or do about that, because it's a very tough situation. Anyway, I'm playing the sergeant, who's her boss, and we kind of clash because she's always wanting to break the rules in an effort to find her sister who's gone missing before she winds up like so many of these other women. So it's a crime drama, thriller, mystery, but a ton of heart. And Amanda's just the perfect person to do it. So yeah, I think we're on to we're in a block of episode 2 and 3 right now of 8. So it's supposed to wrap June 28th, and my guess is it would probably come out in the fall.
So who's going to be airing it?
Peacock.
Oh, fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it, because I'm interested. But boy, you bring up the word Trank, and that is probably one of the most dangerous street drugs that anybody's ever come across. So I'm going to be keep my eyes open when that series debuts.
Oh, I hope you will. Yeah. I think it's going to be really special.
Oh man. Well, Patch, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the program today and talking about this incredible film. And ladies and gentlemen, the film Cabrini is an inspiration and a strong motivator to all of us. I mean, the quotes in the film will inspire and motivate you that you too can make your vision happen. For example, Mother Cabrini says twice in the film, "Begin the mission and the means will come." That is a statement of unwavering faith. She had tuberculosis when she was younger, but only given 5 years to live, but she lived to the age of 67. And her next statement is something for all of us to adhere to. We can serve our weakness, or we can serve our purpose. And Mother Cabrini leaves us with a statement that leaves, well, all of us with a dare to dream and to do big things. The world is too small for what I intend to do. Do you think like that? I mean, do you have what it takes to make a statement like that? Of course you do, especially when your focus is to help others. Even the Pope told Mother Cabrini, I can't tell where your faith ends and your ambition begins. But once you see the film Cabrini, you may feel that you can conquer the world and do something good in it as well. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching. And Patch, again, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing with us not only some of your beginnings and past projects, but also this incredible film Cabrini with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, and happy Easter.
Oh, and happy Easter to you too as well. And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the replays of our interviews with the top film directors, producers, and screenwriters, as well as actors and more on Bond on Cinema. We're also available on YouTube and a dozen audio platforms as well. And don't forget to check out my daily television show, The Dr. Ward Bond Show, which this interview will air there as well. So for all of you, I want to thank you for watching and listening. And as for me, I'll either see you at the movies or from the red carpet.